I am nervous. I get nervous every time, even when I do the lay leader stuff. I'm nervous, but it's like I have a captive audience when I do the lay leader stuff, so it's not as terrifying as it is right now. So, without further eloquence, I will jump into this. If Walls Could Talk by Tom Dewey. I have a prologue. Every now and then, a thought-provoking idea pops into my head. Sometimes I jot it down, but more often than not, it just slips away into the realm of infinity. In the case of If Walls Could Talk, the idea claimed me about a week before the story actually presented itself. Sometime during the day, I had come across the saying, "If shoes could talk." I'd never really considered this adaptation of an old saying. Thoughts began to spin, and I felt drawn to commit a few notes to paper. My notes. If shoes could talk, what would or could they tell us? We could ask that of many things. If pews could talk, if the communion plates or cup could talk, if the organ could talk. If they could talk, would we understand them? I had no idea where this would take me. If walls could talk. If these walls could talk, how many of us have said that? I was up and out early on a Thursday morning for work, delivering gourmet popcorn to stores throughout the state of Maine. As I was pulling out of my second stop, I spotted something lying next to a dumpster. It captured my attention as I drove by, and I knew I needed to stop and take a closer look. This is what I found. Instantly, I wondered, if this piano could talk, what would it say? Would it speak of its creation, the pain of every nail, what it felt like every time a piece of wood was carefully cut, how confusing and agonizing it had been as someone twisted and pinched, then plucked and pounded at its insides? Would it tell you the joy it felt the first time it heard its bright voice? How wonderful it was to feel the vibrations of its vocal cords as it sang its first song? Would it describe the thrilling experience of being surrounded by sisters and brothers as they occasionally sang to each other? Or having someone sit down at its designated bench and give it a voice for the first time? Or sensing the varying degrees of skill and warmth in those who took the time to finish it and fine-tune it? One day, strangers came and wrapped it up in packing blankets, and they took it away from its family. This piano might have told you the dread it bore as this was happening, the terrible fear of being chipped or cracked or irrevocably broken. Arriving in a new place, unscathed on the outside, but unavoidably a bit out of tune from the bounce of the journey, it might share with you the crazy excitement it sensed when someone pulled off the cloth that had been covering it and a bunch of people yelled, "Surprise!" It might convey the anxious feelings of having a surprised little boy approach it for the first time, and how it felt when with one finger the eager boy poked out his first note. And I sang for him. The joy in his face washed all my fears away, and I knew I was home. I had my own lovely room and looked forward to singing with him. He and his mom would visit me at least once a day. She would make me sing as I had never sung before, with striking brilliance and heart-rending harmony. My little boy could be a bit rough and would push and pound my keys when he was tired or frustrated. It hurt, but I wanted so badly for him to do better. I was frustrated because I couldn't sing for him the way I sang for his mother. As he grew older, he did get better. It was so wonderful to see him grow. Then, as time went by, he lost interest in me and I missed him. His mom would always come in and we would spend time together. We sang when she was happy and we sang when she was sad. As I grew older, I noticed that I couldn't sing as well as I once had. My boy's mother had a man, I think he was a doctor, come and look at me, and he poked and prodded me, then started twisting, pinching, and pounding on my insides as my creators had when they first installed my vocal cords. Even though it hurt, I felt better when he was done, and I was able to sing properly again. It was wonderful, like having your purpose redefined. Eventually, my boy grew up and moved away. His mom came to visit less frequently, and I noticed that my room was filling up with things. There was a lot of stuff carelessly piled up on me, and the dust was getting thick. It seemed that the only time anyone came into my room was when they wanted to add to the piles. Then, one happy day, people came in and started to clean. The boxes were removed and dust was polished away. I was indescribably excited. Someone came over and started poking my keys. I had not sung for a long time. I was so happy to be singing again. Then, he slammed my key cover shut and started wrestling me around. It hurt. More people came in to help, and I was taken out of my room and moved outside where there was a truck waiting. It was rough. I had many scratches and even a few deep gouges when they were done. I didn't know what was happening. I was wounded, scared, and very confused as we drove off. Moving faster now, I could feel the wind as it blew over my vocal cords. It helped me to sing a low moaning song as I was ripped from the life I had known. What would happen to me? Where was I going? What had become of my boy, his mother, and the love I had once felt? The ride was long. I remember being very cold, and at one point there was something running all over me. Little beads of liquid were everywhere. Mother had always been very careful about this. No liquid had ever been allowed near me. Now it was everywhere. I could feel it running inside me. It was dreadful and cold. To be honest, I shut down, disappeared, if you will. I have done my best to forget everything else about that horrible day. When I finally came back to myself, I was in a large room. There were tables everywhere and so many chairs. The room was poorly lit and felt a bit damp. There were people talking, and a man came over to me. He sat a drink down on me. Can you believe that? A drink. It was wet and sticky. I could feel it as the condensation pooled under the glass and started etching a ring into my finish. Then something amazing happened. He cracked his knuckles and placed his fingers on my keys. He started slowly and helped me to sing again. My heart leapt. I had never sung like this before. Once he warmed up, he really let loose, and we sang for a long time. It had been so wonderful that I almost forgot about the drink. Almost. When he was done, he picked his drink up and walked off. I thought we were finished for the day and settled in for a rest. It wasn't very long before more people started coming in, and it grew quite noisy. The room filled with smoke and the odor of liquor. There were a lot of people, and some came over to check me out. Sticky, wet fingers would make me sing a whimpering song as others would put their wet bottles and drinks on top of me. Eventually, the man came out with his drink, and we began singing again. The people in the room were all happy to hear us. I must say, by the time people started to leave, I was exhausted. Someone finally came to clear away the bottles and glasses that had been left on me, but they didn't bother to clean up the spills. I slept. It had been a long night. The next night was feverishly similar, and after a week or so, I started getting used to the routine. I can't say that all nights were the same. I never had the same person help me sing more than 4 nights in a row. One night, I can't remember how long I had been there, some people got into a fight. One of the men fell hard against my leg, and I heard it crack before I felt it. Oh, how it hurt. I thought they would fix me, but they just put some thick tape on it, and we kept singing. Then there was the time when one of the people I sang with sat his cigarette on me and forgot about it. It burned right to the stub, and I was left with a dark scar. It was my first burn. Sadly, it would not be the last. Those were alarming times. My voice became rough, and I couldn't sing as well as I had in the past. One night, I'll call it the last night, I was singing with a rowdy young man. He was standing up and playing hard. Every once in a while, he would bring his foot up and hit my keys with his heel. This worried me because I wasn't as young as I had once been. Then it happened. He brought his foot up and swung it down with a savage blow. Several things happened all at once in that terrible, life-changing moment. It felt as if something had exploded inside me. My voice broke, and I knew that a couple of the soft felt fingers that played the strings of my vocal cords had fallen away. Even a few of my smooth ivory keys had broken. I was in agony. I thought the reckless man would stop, but he didn't. When the night was through, I knew I was done, broken, without hope. I heard people nattering noisily as if nothing had happened, as if I was worthless. Why they didn't even bother cleaning off the bottles or cigarette butts. The next day, I was loaded into a truck and carted away. They took me over to a place called the Salvation Army. It was closed, and the people didn't want me in their truck anymore, so I was unloaded by the back door, and they drove off. It was scary being left alone outside. And as night fell, I began to hear rumbles, and then the rain came. It came down hard. I felt like I was filled with water. It kept raining. When the workers came into work and found me, it was too late. I was in ruins. I could feel the rust starting to form on my insides. They left me there for a long time. Then one night, someone came along and loaded me up again. I was hoping they were there to help. I was hoping to go home again. I was hoping somehow to sing again, to be loved again. But I was taken to a place called the dump where they didn't want me either. So the people went home. I stayed in the truck until it was very dark. Then they drove me around to the back of a large building and shoved me out. I felt a lot of things break in that moment. They drove off. I stood there for a long time watching as people drove by, always hoping to be noticed. One night, some people were hanging around and they started hitting me. I protested with what little voice I had left, but no one heard me, or if they did, they didn't pay attention. Then they pushed me over. I fell with a loud crashing noise. After they stomped, kicked, and walked all over me, they left at last. I could hear them laughing as they disappeared into the night. I lay there on the ground for what must have been many months. People and vehicles passed by but never stopped to help. It grew cold. One day, white matter started falling from the sky. It began to cover me, and I lost all hope of ever being noticed again. Eventually, I was buried in the white cold. As I lay there freezing and alone, I felt more than heard a loud scraping noise. Then, without warning, I was slammed into the side of a dumpster. I felt pieces of my body break away completely as the snow pusher assaulted me again. Left there broken, frozen, and alone, the snow pusher moved away, never noticing what it had been banging around. That's where I stayed. I was lost. There was no hope or voice left in me. One rainy day, long after the snow had melted away, a boxcar drove by slowly. I didn't really pay attention. Why would I? This had happened so many times before. Then it stopped. I heard the door open and close, and the next thing I saw was a man walking toward me. He walked right up to me, and he stood there. He looked at me with sad respect, and I heard him say, "If you could talk, I wonder what you would say." Would I even be able to understand you? He took a strange object from his pocket and pointed it at me. I think he was taking pictures of me. He walked around me as he did. I could see the sympathy he had for me. I could see the sadness in his eyes as he took his pictures. Then he reached down and his fingers touched my strings. I sang again. It was a sad, tinny sound, but I was so happy to sing once more. He smiled a sad smile and plucked my strings again. That's when I decided to tell him my story. He took more pictures as he listened. When I was done, I was able, with his help, to sing one last song. He understood. He respected me. And in my sorry condition, I couldn't ask for more than that. Epilogue. This story snuck up on me. It struck me in a multitude of ways and on many levels. Those who know me can tell you I'm a crier. Happy, mad, glad, or sad, my emotion usually manifests as tears, especially when I am passionate about something. When it comes from deep inside, I had no idea it would be like this with my piano. It soon became apparent I was trying to tell something bigger than I had expected. I'm not used to typing out a story as it spills out of my head. Usually I find a pad of paper and just start scribbling until it feels done. Then I have to rewrite it so that it's legible. Once that's done, I'll read it and edit it, if you will. When I feel as though I'm done, and only when I'm done, will I approach the keyboard and peck it into a document. That didn't happen this time. I went straight to the keyboard. Once I had written a paragraph, I went back to read what was there. Halfway through the first little bit of the tale, I was almost bawling. There wasn't much to the story yet, and here I was crying my eyes out. I calmed down and started writing more. Once again, I found myself crying my eyes out during a reread. I knew this was going to take a lot out of me, and I knew the tears would flow every time I sat down and let the piano talk to me. Therefore, I just accepted it and continued with the story. When I was done, I finally understood why it had affected me so. Let me explain. Come on, who are we kidding? When we wonder if walls could talk, or anything else for that matter, we don't really want to learn about the life of the wall. What we really want to hear about is all the little dirty secrets that the wall has witnessed. That's what we're really after, aren't we? We could care less what the wall has gone through. As I was writing, I tried to imagine how I would feel if I were the piano and all people wanted to know about was what I had seen, not about me, not about what I had been through in my lifetime. Then I wondered if my piano could talk, would I even be able to understand it? How bad would it make you feel if you were trying to talk to somebody and they couldn't understand a thing you said? Then I thought, even if they could understand me, would they actually listen? Would they really hear me? As the story progressed, I found myself seeing a person by the dumpster more than a piano. Now, think of all the neglected, abused souls on this earth and in our own familiar neighborhoods, and ask yourself the same questions I've been asking of the piano. How long would it have taken you to notice them? Really notice them? Maybe only after they were so broken and shattered they looked like garbage that needed to be cleared away. Would you understand them if they reached out and spoke to you? I hope you understand why I cried so much as this story fell onto the screen. Everything, everybody has a story. Why are we so interested in what they might have seen? Why can't we be as interested in who they are? Why can't we listen deeply and truly, hear their story, and show them that we care? That might be all that they were hoping for. Thank you for listening. This story moved me in a lot of ways, and particularly it moved me in a way that I never expected. And it's given me the ability to kind of see things in a different light, and I mean all things, people especially. And so in an effort to keep the piano alive, I came up with this emblem, and I used 4 notes. It's F, G, A, E. And what we did is we put some words to the notes, and the words are finding grace abundantly every day. And it's just a reminder to look beyond the normal. And when you take the time to do that, I think that you will have the ability of finding grace abundantly every day. And that's the goal, is to not only keep the piano alive, but the saying alive, and to use that as you look at things. And hopefully you'll be able to find the grace in things that you were not expecting to see grace in. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story.